Recording. And yeah, maybe we can do some introductions and announcements.
Sounds good. Hey y'all. Most of us on the call, I feel like, do know each other, but um, I'm Carolyn, she, her. I am the Education and Curriculum Manager at the CLUE Institute, a nonprofit in Florida, focuses on education and advocacy. I guess, sorry, I've got a bit of a cough, so I'm glad that I won't be talking for most of this meeting. But just for icebreakers and all, does anybody have fun Halloween plans? Um, I'm presenting at a symposium on November 1st, and it's 3 hours away. So I'm going to be spending Thursday evening, afternoon/evening, driving across the state and prepping for my presentation, which is adulting, I guess. It's not very fun, but it is what it is. And then I see Robert is the next person in my grid. So I'm just going to assign you going next, I suppose.
Thanks, Carolyn. I'm Robert Peo. I'm with the SIAD team at UCAR. I haven't been to the clean meetings, but I'm cycling in. It's nice to be a part of the group. I'm an education designer and just started at UCAR about 6 months ago. Yeah, thank you, Katie. And what was your question, Carolyn? I didn't catch what the question is.
Fun Halloween plans.
Oh, my Halloween plans? Oh, I'm not a Halloween person. I know that's like blasphemy for some people, but I'm not so much. We're gonna have a freeze here, as the Colorado people know, so it'll be a little cold. So yeah, I'm just gonna hang low and maybe see a scary movie, but probably not. So I'll pass it to Ingrid.
Well, the reality is we live on a kind of a busy street, which is not great for trick-or-treaters, and we don't have too many young kids in our neighborhood anymore. But my husband and I will probably buy a bag of candy and hope that someone comes. Maybe we'll even put out a jack-o'-lantern, and then we'll sit and watch a movie and eat the candy ourselves. So,
Fair enough.
and I'll pass it to Don.
Hi, I'm Don Hess. I'm Ingrid's colleague at the Center for Climate Change Education at PRI. And my plans are to sit at home. I do have I bought the pumpkin out there. I think maybe you can see it. I have not yet carved it. That'll be an activity for tonight. But I'm just gonna stay home and serve the trick-or-treaters, which some years we've had huge numbers and some years we haven't. And I have no idea how to make that prediction, but I'd love to be going to a party or something, but I'm not. And I'll pass it to Danelle.
Oh gosh, I just popped in. What are we just saying who we are?
Yeah, saying who we are and what our Halloween plans are.
Okay, great. Danelle Hogan with the Water Center for Systems Thinking based in Tucson. We are focused on systems thinking. And for Halloween in Tucson here, there's a neighborhood that they decorate for Christmas called Winter Haven. And so they have lots of visitors for Halloween, and some of my friends live in there. And so I'm gonna go hang out and see I keep a tally of the costumes to see how they're trending. So that will be my nerdy plans for Halloween. And I don't know who is not gone yet. So raise your hand if you haven't gone yet. Oh, excellent. Katie.
Hi, everyone. I'm Katie Boyd. I am the Clean Program Manager, and we're based at CERES, one of NOAA's cooperative institutes in the Center for Education, Engagement, and Evaluation, CEEE. And it's nice to be here and see you all. And I have an almost 3-year-old and a 6-month baby, so we will be out getting costumes on kids. We'll be trying to eat dinner, get costumes on kids, get candy set out, and get out and trick or treat all before 7 p.m. when we have to start bedtime. So it will be a very exciting, but should be fun. We actually live in a neighborhood with a lot of kids, so the last couple of years we've gone out. It's been fun to see all the different costumes and very active and stuff. So hopefully it'll be fun. Let's see. Wendy, I don't think you've gone yet. Can you go next?
Yep. I'm Wendy Johnson, Science Education Specialist at the National Center for Science Education. I have 3 teenagers and they all do their own things for Halloween, so I will be in charge of passing out the candy. And same as Don, like we live in a neighborhood, you would think that there are a lot of kids that would come, but then some years we will have like 5 kids. But I have enough candy for probably 200 or 300. So if we don't get a lot of trick-or-treaters this year, I purposely haven't opened it because I cannot control myself around candy and like the bags are sealed. But if we don't get a lot of trick-or-treaters, I am in big trouble. Let's see. James, you haven't gone yet.
Thank you, Wendy. James Callahan, Mobile Climate Science Lab. So I sometimes come on when I work with students have 2 screens. So that's this is taking care of 2 screens. We are in 2 of the 2 schools in Washington, D.C., others in California, museums. Currently getting prepared for AGU and a lot of the climate action that goes on with the students. My wife and I will probably just keep the lights out to this time for Halloween. Sometimes we have it on. Kids come from different neighborhoods to in our area. Most of the kids on our block are off in college and grown, so not too much unless we really turn on the lights. Emily, did you get a chance to go?
I did not. I just joined. So thanks. Hi, everyone. Emily Snowd-Brenneman. I'm with the UCAR Center for Science Education. I'm a program specialist and I'm the exhibit manager for the team. My plans are, it's going to be better than last year. Last year I had COVID during Halloween. So I was trying to keep distance, putting the bucket way of candy way out, giving the kids the candy, but not seeing anyone. So I'm hoping to be able to sit on the porch and see some cute kids. But then we're also preparing to get our roof replaced the next day. So it's going to be kind of a hot mess with shingles laying around everywhere. So it'll be good times. And did everyone go, or is there someone who hasn't gone yet?
Gina, do you count yourself as having introduced yourself?
I can go. Gina, nice to see you all. I don't have any plans directly related to Halloween. We don't get many trick-or-treaters. We live on a very, very, very quiet street. And I am going to see some friends on Thursday though, so we will have fun, but not really Halloween related. And then I think that is everyone. Yeah. Announcements from anyone? There's a couple from Clean. Oh, Katie.
I'll do one of them, Gina, which is that we have a special webinar today. Patrick's going to be doing a webinar and I will put the link in the chat. Please join us. We're doing it this afternoon at 6 p.m. Eastern time. And it should be good. Short webinar, kind of just about Clean, but also about some of the new things that we've been developing, putting out there around addressing the new climate literacy principles and the work Patrick's been doing to enhance the collection and try to provide guidance around teaching across subjects, not just science, and teaching climate in different subjects and mental health stuff. So really just kind of, supporting youth climate education for educators. Please spread the word and join us. And it's also somewhat in response to, there was a article, I don't know, this is sort of a separate announcement. There's an article that came out, what was that, a week ago or so now, Gina? A really interesting study from the Lancet, and I can find that and put the link in the chat too. I don't know if anybody else heard about this, but basically
I just put it in, Katie.
Thank you, Gina. Yeah, this was an interesting article. If you didn't hear about it, it's pretty cool that they surveyed all these youth. It's a really large sample, good sample of youth talking about sort of their views on climate change, how it's impacting them and their mental health, but also calls for doing things. And one of the big calls that the youth had was that they want more and better climate education in their schooling. So we're trying to kind of react to that and show folks that, Clean is a good source for climate education work and resources and support. So, but just also thought I'd mention that article too, if you hadn't seen it. I think it's pretty interesting for this group to be aware of that research that came out. So thanks. Join us if you can.
Yeah, and I'll just say too, speaking of articles, Katie and then some um co-authors, like Dawn is in the room, and other clean members just got this article published, um, um, based on the social network analysis that we did for clean, and we're going to do a clean call on this to like unpack it a little bit more. Katie will be doing that in a couple of weeks. But just, you know, a lot of people in on this call were involved in the social network analysis. So I just wanted to highlight that and say that that's a really exciting thing that's happening for Clean right now too, and we will unpack it some more.
Oh yeah, thanks, Gina. That's a really good point. And I wanted to add to that that if anybody can't access that article, just email me and I can send you a copy of it. We had 50 free copies that we could share, but I shared it like with 5 people who responded to my email about it on the Clean network, and then like the 6th person who asked me for it, I was like, here's the link to the free copies, and they were like, they're all gone. So that
Oh.
spread quickly. I kind of surprised. I don't know if I'm a little worried
Okay.
maybe it got out there and somebody like a bot or something got it and was clicking it a bunch. I have no idea, but anyways, I have a PDF copy, so if you want to read it and you can't access it, it is behind a paywall, so just text me or just send me an email and I'll send it to you. And Gina organized another cool article. We have a lot going on Clean right now. I'm going to add one more article that's a little bit more easy to read, I'd say, about Clean and some of our work supporting the new climate literacy principles that the Series Communication folks wrote about us. So we've been trying to share that around as well. So if you have a chance to read that and have interest in sharing it, I put the link to that in the chat too. We've just had a flurry of activity. It's been really busy on Clean the last few weeks, which is exciting. But yeah.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for putting those in the chat. And the announcements continue, which is okay because I still have not heard from Shaban. I'm getting a little bit nervous because I that was the plan for today, so we'll see what happens. But so 2 more things while we're holding pattern here. One is that you might have seen the Excel Summit call for proposals has been out, and the deadline was on Friday, but we're extending that another week in hopes that we get some more quality submissions. And just like as a refresher for people who might not be super familiar, we started hosting the Excel Summit, which is an acronym for the Accelerating Climate Capacity Leadership and Engagement Summit, Excels, a couple of years ago in hopes that we could make more clear connections and create some more collaborations among members of the Clean Network. So it's kind of evolved over the past couple of years, but we've landed on a model where we're supporting working groups and have an event in the fall. This is what we're working on right now, where we have ideas for working groups submitted. This is the call for proposals that I'm talking about. And then we fund with a small stipend the working groups to meet and work on a specific goal over the following 6 months or so. And then we have a share out event in the spring. So please do consider, if you were thinking about it, submitting a proposal. Wendy did one last year. It was really awesome on a content inventory. Jim has led a group on DEI and climate action. So we're just trying to uh, get some more engagement from the Clean Network. and it doesn't need to be a big lift either because everyone is busy. So, there's that. And then Dawn put in the chat too a question about who's going to NAAE, which I'm glad he asked because I also wanted to make an announcement that we're going to be doing an in-person meetup at NAAE. We'll be doing that Thursday night at 5 p.m. I will send an email to the listserv tomorrow about that, just so you can like flag it. But for anyone that is going, that'll be at 5 p.m. at the Westin, which is where the conference center is. And we're just gonna like, we do these informal gatherings at AGU and NAAE typically, some of the other conferences, where a lot of our members are, where we just can get together in person and talk about, where we can talk about, you know, networking opportunities and just kind of get to connect in person, which we don't normally do. So, yeah, I'll send an email about that tomorrow. But again, 5 p.m. at the Westin if you're going to NAAE, and that'll be on Thursday. And as I'm saying that, I'm getting an email from Shaban saying that they're trying to join, and hopefully we'll get them online soon. Are there any? Oh, go ahead.
A couple announcements in the chat. Robert or Emily, did you want to mention those two or just put them in the chat? I'm excited about the Saturday, Super Science Saturday.
Emily, you go.
I'll do Super Science Saturday and you do teacher workshops. How about that? Yeah, so this Saturday, if you are in Colorado or you know other folks, we have a free event that is a lot of fun. It's all about science and it's fun this year where it's a quest theme, so play on Lord of the Rings a little bit. Last year it was a play on Star Wars, so this year we're keeping with the theme, and we're gonna be celebrating drop signs, the 50th anniversary of drop signs, and we're gonna be dropping drop signs, hopefully if weather permitting, off the Mesa Lab. So lots of fun things. And then there'll be our annual ping pong balloon launch as well, so lots of fun things. And yeah, I'll pass it off to you, Robert.
I'm very sad I'm going to miss the ping pong balloon launch. I'm just going to say that right now. And on December 5th, we're continuing to do our webinar series. December 5th, we have a session. Melissa's going to run it on climate change for middle school grades. We'll have one in January, late January, featuring our SkySci elementary level, and then one in April on climate solutions, and those will be free. So we're going to start promoting those. So help us spread the word. Thanks.
And I'll just say a quick word about the status of climate change education policy in New York State, which has been a very interesting ride. It looks like we are going to get something to happen this year, not as big as we had hoped, but we are working with the state education department as an ally, which is a change from where we were several months ago. And we have written with feedback from them and in concert with them an appropriation for the state education department to hire 2 new staff, one who would be on the pedagogical side of looking across the standards to develop exemplars of how climate can be taught across the different disciplines, and the other person would be on the infrastructure side, working on greening schools and electric school buses and things like that. And these folks will hopefully work together and help educators to use the school's physical plant and infrastructure for stuff to teach about. We had initially opposed a $20 million appropriation, and then got a response of $7.4 million, and now we're down to $500,000. So that's a little discouraging, but it's on the whole, it's still good news. So, and we have a memo of support that can be signed. I think that's more targeted at New York State folks, but I think others could sign too. And I'll also note, I know Shaban a little bit, and he didn't include me on the note to you, Gina. What did he have to say about tech troubles?
Said that he's joining, but then it's not, he just said it's not working. I've seen him come into the waiting room a couple of times and then leave really quickly, so
Yeah,
will,
infrastructure in Uganda is not great.
yeah, I'll try to admit him really quickly if I see it pop up again.
In the meantime, Danelle, did you want to say something about the announcement you put in the chat?
Yeah, sure. Every month we have an open studio that's focused on some part of systems thinking. And this month, the conversation is focused on how to use the ladder of inference, a tool in systems thinking for having hard conversations, which applies to everything, but in particular comes up a little bit in climate education. So anyway, two of my colleagues are doing it, Melanie Houston and Alexandria Cedar, and it'll be really, really great. So but I put the link in the chat. It's on the 7th at 9 a.m. Pacific.
Go ahead, Ingrid.
Yeah, I thought I could just share something since we have some maybe spare time, but feel free to interrupt me if he joins. So we have in our Natural History Museum, the Museum of the Earth, we have a permanent exhibit on climate change. And in one part of it, we have what we call our feedback station. So it's basically a monitor on the wall where we post some news every 2 weeks about climate change. And then we pose a question about that news and then invite people to answer. And I don't know if I've showed this before. I thought I'd just show you what we have up now. So this is our current post, and if it looks a little skewed, that the aspect ratio of the monitor is a little different than the aspect ratio of my screen, so that's why it looks a little weird. But this is our current post. It's about the election, and we're asking how important of an issue is climate change for your voting decision. And then people can answer. They can either leave a video, like here you see a man who's in a video. I'm sorry, you can't hear the sound. Or people can just type some text as a response. So it's been kind of a nice tool for us to get some responses, some feedback to questions, and get people kind of talking to each other. At least they can see other people's responses, even if they're not talking together in real time. And maybe I mention it because if any of you ever have something that you would like to put up here, you can contact me and we could consider it. It's obviously not a scientific survey, you know, like getting people's opinions here. It's just, but it's still interesting to see. And we tend to post about, it could be global things. Often we post about local things too. But just wanted to share one thing we're doing.
Thank you for sharing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting because the first day of NAAA is on election day, so a lot of us will be together in person, kind of watching things unfold, and it's always good to talk about and have resources for, how people are thinking about the election. So that's cool to see, Ingrid. And just climate, yeah, climate voting in general.
We have we call them climate voter guides for our different sort of markets across Florida. The C4 branch has made some like candidate endorsements. And then overall, it's just, we sent a questionnaire to, state and local elected officials on their different, their different stances and noted whether or not they took money from utility companies and stuff like that. I'm not supposed to send it with my nonprofit email because this is from like the political advocacy side of Clio, but I think I could probably post in the chat if anyone's interested. But it is Florida specific, so.
Yeah, and I'll say about our posts in the museum, they're usually not about politics. It just happens to be because it's election right now. So usually they're about science or sometimes about policy, often about actions, but rarely about politics. But this one has generated a lot of interest.
Any other announcements? Oh, I think Shaban is joining. Let's see. There we go. Good timing. Siobhan, can you hear us?
You're on mute. Hello,
Can you
Shaban.
guys hear me?
Yes, we can now.
Yes.
I'm so sorry. I think my network has been really messed up, the internet network.
Oh,
No
well,
worries. Sorry about that. I know it's the technology can be really hard sometimes.
Yeah,
The
I've
Wi-Fi.
tried several times, and I could not, go through, and I couldn't understand the problem.
It happens to all of us.
Yes.
Yeah,
Thanks for being here.
I hope I'm not so late.
All good. We were just
Okay,
doing sharing some announcements and doing introductions. So this is perfect timing.
I'm happy. I'm glad that I made it on time.
Do
the
you
floor,
want Oh, sorry, Don, do you want to
the
go ahead?
floor is yours, Shaban. So you want to
Sorry?
the floor is yours. You can start talking about what you were up to in Uganda.
Oh, actually, so my name is Lutaaya Shaban, and I'm 32 years old. So actually, I'm running a non-profit organization called Hope for the Voiceless Uganda. If anybody can go and check it on website. So generally, Hope for the Voiceless, what it does, we just go on streets of Kampala and around the areas of Kampala, and we try to do some outreaches, which includes sensitization of those kids, to make sure that they go off drugs, and maybe they can go back home. Eventually, the end result of that general process is to make sure that those kids actually either they go back home or they can go back to school. So we pick those who are ready to go back to school and take them back to schools and provide education. So what I'm trying to do is to make sure that I widen such a program, since I'm dealing with the youth, with the next generation, to make sure that I'm trying to install the thing of climate change, because I'm just passionate about it. I don't have, at the moment any running specific program of climate change, but I'm joining such platforms like this one to make sure that maybe I can have some people that I can collaborate with them, so that since I'm dealing with the youth, and I believe youth is the future, to make sure that maybe we can start something special. So alternatively, you can see that not everybody is actually knowledgeable about what is going on in Africa. Climate change right now is being looked at as a big problem for the Western world, without being considerate of what is going on in Africa. So people like us are trying to change that narrative to show that the world that actually what is affecting USA, what is affecting Canada and some parts of Europe is actually affecting Africa. So let us see how this is becoming a major problem. We're gonna see some of the causes of climate change here in Africa. One of the things that I can look at, we can see that actually the population of this world is going at a higher rate, and you might find that Africa is contributing too much of the population here on Earth. So this has caused a very, very major problem here in Africa, and you find that a lot of people are doing massive immigrations from the villages to towns to urban centers, and we rely so much on charcoal. So charcoal, like you find like 90% of the population here, especially in Uganda, use charcoal. What that can bring, it definitely that can bring a lot of deforestation, which is causing a lot of climate change. So deforestation is causing a lot of climate change, and when you see uh oh sorry the economic impact of a lot of people moving to urban centers and all that stuff, it increases a lot of encroachment on a lot of swamp areas. And we have seen a lot of things, a lot of that happening in cities like in Kampala, because that is the major city we're having right now. And Kampala used to have a lot of conducive conducive climate, but because of a lot of encroachment on places like places which has swamp areas, because they do a lot of industrialization in those places, um, real estate programs going through in such places. So that is actually impacting the climate here in Africa. So we're going to see a lot of industrialization. Uh, we see a lot of we have we can see that a lot of Chinese are actually advancing into African system. And we have a policy here that whenever you say a Chinese, definitely that is a distraction. So industrialization in Africa, because they say that Africa is a very, I'm going to use a virgin place, very cheap labor, cheap land. So you see a lot of investors coming in Africa, and that is causing a lot of industrialization. That definitely will lead a lot of omission, uh, which omission is going to cause, which is causing, not already is going to cause, but which is causing the problems we are seeing right now in Africa. So, of course, we are burning and we use a lot of, coal and oil. You see in Uganda, we have just actually discovered a lot of oil, and they are doing right now extraction of it in some parts of North and Western Uganda. So I believe that is not good news, because Uganda has been a beauty, and that's why we've been called the Pearl of Africa, and that is going to be a problem which is coming on our way. And maybe an overuse of the natural resources, because we're so dependent uh, on on agriculture, and you might end up seeing that we overuse like our soils and all that, because totally the main economic activity which is going on in Uganda is agriculture. So over exploitation of that land is causing a lot of climate calamities we are seeing right now in Africa. So why should the world has to wake up and look at Africa and see that there's some serious there's some serious problem that is going on? Why should the world come in to try and save Africa? That is the reason actually I have. This is the reason actually why? Because I believe anything that is happening in Africa, the problem is being passed to the Western world. For instance, if Africa do not have food, because they used to go to the gardens and dig their own food. So if there's food scarcity in Africa, then World Food Program have to jump in. You may find that taxpayers like in USA have to contribute to make sure that places like now we're gonna look to places like Southern Sudan, places like Somalia, they have to put food there. So the earlier they come and handle the problem of climate change in places like Uganda, the more their citizens they are not going to carry the burden of trying to save people in Africa. So let us see. Changing of weather patterns. I'm talking about the effects. So the weather patterns in Africa, you look, I'm going to talk about, because I'm not a well-traveled person, so I'm going to talk about Uganda. Uganda used to know when to grow and when to harvest. I'm gonna talk about like in November, because I used to some time back I was in the country, not in the city or urban centers. So in November we used to expect a lot of rain, and that would help the people who carry out agriculture to know when to plant their crops. And in February, then we used to have a lot of heat, and that's when they would know that this is the time to harvest. Now things changed because of climate change. People don't know when to plant and when to harvest, because the time you expect to rain, it can turn out to be very hot. That has caused a lot of a lot of starvation, and limited foods and all that stuff, which is turned out to be a problem to to big organizations like World Food Program and taxpayers' money in Europe and Western world. Increased frequency. Yeah, that actually includes the food security, because without knowing when to plant, that definitely will determine the security of food in such places. Now, there are so many people who come from Western world and come to places like Uganda to carry out safaris, and all that stuff. Now, so many people actually take this for granted, but climate change is threatening the biodiversity of places of such places like Uganda. The ecosystem is being affected, like in wildlife and parks. So people are losing out. They'll reach a moment when actually all the wild animals have migrated, gone to some places, or some of them will be even dead. So if we don't act early, such beauty will be lost within a short period of time. And you find that also climate change has caused a lot of health risks in Africa. All these problems that actually I'm mentioning, the burden, sometimes go back to the Western world. It goes back to USA, to Europe, because whenever, for instance, there's a lot of malaria, you find that you said come in, to help. World Health Program, they come in to help. And if like malaria or cholera, because cholera, when there's a lot of flooding, because we tend not to have a drainage system here in Africa, which is very stable. So when it rains a lot and it floods, definitely cholera will come in, and that will also impact, the taxpayers' money. Then there's also economic risk. So economic risk related also, since I told you that like in Uganda, we rely so much on agriculture. We like, if you see the countries that grow a lot of coffee and sell on the world market, Uganda has a very, very good place on that list. So if climate change is not dealt with, you might find that, people will no longer be able to grow coffee because, the soils will not be fertile enough because of too extensive, droughts and all that. And that will cause an economic risk. Definitely, the Western will, as usual, come up and, donate and all this and this. So we have to find a way. We have to find a solution to start also looking at climate change as a serious problem back in Africa, most especially to countries like Uganda, who used to sustain themselves through food, through good weathers and all that stuff. By the way, there's some places in Western world have a problem of immigration. If you look at, US have been following a lot of, campaigns, and you see the major topic is being talked about is immigration policies, how someone is going to handle the immigration. People don't know that actually that is one of the major problems why people migrate from, places who used to sustain them, and now they are traveling way taking risks, to go maybe to places like USA, and the US end up, being affected. But if climate change wasn't there, if people could, dig their food, and there's, some food security, people would not find a reason to travel, to take risks, to move to places which are not, which will not be able maybe to sustain them. So I find it as a wake-up call for the people in Western world to come on board with people like us, maybe in Africa, to see how we can solve this. Now, people will maybe ask questions like, why don't you guys, people like you, collaborate with big organizations in our area, in your country? Let me tell you, I'm going to say this, and maybe it can be a wake-up call to most of you guys. NGOs are businesses, totally businesses, most especially in countries like Uganda. For them, what they will do, pick money, they will not follow up where they are putting all that money. Now, there's somebody like Shaban who has a small CBO, which is community-based, who works with the final person on ground. Because what I'm doing right now is totally passion. I'm not educated in science and all that, but just a concerned person. There are things that I dream of doing, like, starting a lot of massive sensitizations in high schools, in primaries, because those are the kind of, stages that I'm dealing with. So my job is just hands-on, working with the final person. I believe people like us, we are the one to impact, to make a change and all that stuff. So I'm open to any question and all that.
Well, oh, go ahead, Ingrid.
So what kind of collaborations with people in the United States would you like to see?
Just that I've been messed up and I could not get myself ready. But I have a dream. The kind of dream. There's a program that I wanted to start with some of the friends that I tried something like 3 years back, before during the pandemic, because people were not so busy, the schools were closed. So what I did, I got my kids, because I'm educating 30 kids right now. They are under my program, 30 of them, and the 10 are in high school, the 20 are in primary school or elementary school. So what I did was to make sure that I put them in a camp. So they provided me with a piece of land, and if you check my website, you see that some activities that I did with them. So they provided me with a piece of land where we did some camping. So what we did, the time we had during that pandemic, was to make sure that we plant some nursery beds. We put their trees so that we could donate those trees to some schools in Uganda. So I had a vision, and I was like, oh my God, you know what I should do? Maybe when I get some collaborations in USA, I'd love maybe to start such a program, maybe acquire a piece of land, we start some nursery beds, and we start donating, trees, because we are having massive, massive deforestations here in Africa. Totally, we are depending on, cooking charcoal, and people cannot survive without cooking. So we need to replace those trees that are being destroyed at a very high rate. Otherwise, it's going to get tough in the near future. So anybody who can come, we find a way, maybe we can go to schools, radios, we can start programs that can extend in schools, and schools can start working with us. Students can start, wearing t-shirts so that they can feel the passion of protecting their climate. We can start from the households. A kid can go back home and start planting trees in the compound. That can be a major step, but they have to first get the passion to do that. And that sensitization needs somebody to start it. Maybe in schools. Nobody's doing that. Before maybe we think about, such, big programs, like maybe getting piece of lands and starting planting, trees, and maybe, donating them to different places and all that.
Right, thank you.
Mm.
Shaban, I'm curious what got you interested in doing this work and what drives you to continue doing it, because it sounds like there are challenges. So what is kind of like your inspiration for doing this?
Okay, my inspiration is totally, as I told you guys, I'm one person who had some part of my life in country or in villages in Uganda. And when you talk about, we're having some aging, people down in those places, but they used to have food. They could not even buy food anywhere because they used to have to plant their food and, eat, even if they don't have money, but at least the food would be, guaranteed. But right now, as I told you, the seasons have changed. The weather patterns have changed. Here we don't rely on technology so much that somebody will know that today is going to rain, or tomorrow it's going to be, or next month is going to be hot. So most of people end up, planting in not good seasons. And actually, scarcity for food has become a problem in a country which has a lot of a lot of fertility in the soils. So you find out that even people in such places are struggling to survive, to find something to eat, including our grandchildren, I mean our grandparents. So that really beats me, and Uganda actually is called the Pearl of Africa. You know, that means it used to be the beauty of Africa. But the way I'm seeing at the rate it's being destroyed, some of us love our countries, to the bone. And we see Chinese come, like now, right now, we have the largest, freshest lake on the continent, which is Lake Victoria. But Chinese they are coming here, taking a lot of sand from it, taking it to China to use them in industry. Now you find that we no longer have a lot of fish, for instance, in Uganda, because fish no longer have a place where to lay their eggs so that they can multiply, because the sand is being taken away to China. We have the longest river in the whole world, which is River Nile. It's being threatened. So such things, when you look at them, you just can't stop trying to do something right, because the governments no longer care. They don't.
Yeah, thanks for that. Um, I mean, it's good for all of us to hear a perspective from Africa. We don't get to see a lot of those perspectives, so it's good to hear what you're facing and and to hear about the work that you're doing. Don, I see you have your hand up.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I'm wondering what work that you've done so far have you found most encouraging or satisfying, or what particular project do you think has had the most impact?
Um, Actually, there's one thing I had forgotten. Last week, I talked to Peter. You know Peter Older.
Mhm.
So I showed him that something small that I'm already starting to do. I'm starting actually a recycling program because we don't have discipline when it comes to recycling here in Africa. You find a lot of polythene bags and plastics and metals scattered everywhere. So what I did, I was trying to find some little bit of stores, and I could ask small youth to try to collect some plastics and all that and bring them to me so that I can pay them some little money, and maybe I can carry such things and I maybe recycle them to the different factories so that maybe they can be reused back. So according to my capacity, my small capacity, that is something that I'm already starting. I don't have to wait for people, at least I want people to join me when I'm already starting something positive. So since that is a major problem because it has caused a lot of, soil infertility, I'm talking about the plastics and all that, soil infertility in Uganda. That's why maybe why some of the places no longer have fertile soils to, to plant, to grow their crops. I'm trying to start such a program. I'm calling it a cycling program, you know, but nobody's going to do that for free because people are not passionate about that. So I need to get some little money, pay some boys, start, collecting from different places so that, we can keep the environment clean. Then I cycle them to the, factories. With a little money, maybe they can pay me. I can use still to pay. So they keep on doing that thing. And then sometimes, they're getting some money maybe to survive, but still helping the environment.
Okay, thanks.
Mm.
I'd say go ahead, Carol.
Thank you.
Shaban, I want to say thank you, so much for coming. And I was just, thinking about what you were saying with, all of the different impacts and how they do, they do affect other countries. And it just, looking at the immigration system, and the understanding that people don't want to leave their home if they, if they could prevent that. Sorry, I don't know where I'm going with this. It really upsets me because I know that in the US in particular, there are some real attitudes towards immigration, and a lot of people lack the understanding that people, again, don't want to leave their homes, and that climate change is driving some of this. And I'm so sorry. I should have had a better thought to go with that. It just, sort of hearing you say it, it just really informs some of the work that we try to do in talking about these impacts and how they do reach back here, even when people don't necessarily have kindness in their heart or a long-sighted vision of what those impacts are. So thank you for drawing attention to that.
Yeah, maybe what I should add on, if you want to solve the problem, if really if anybody wants to solve the problem, you don't have to start from the stem or from the branches. You need to start from the roots. So if like there's an opportunity to use people like us uh, to make sure that we iron out the problems which are affecting people in Africa, in places that in developing countries like Uganda, it could not be so costly when that problems actually visits their homes like USA. It will not be costly. And people are taking for granted the problems of which are affecting, Africa. Asia, they're taking them for granted. And when they visit them, then they'll see the impact. So that's why my call right now to make sure that, I want to create awareness so that the people in Western world know that actually one of the things that actually affecting people to, like, for instance, to move to their countries is climate change. And the base is Africa. They have to come and handle it before it is too late. That is it. Anyway, anybody who would love maybe to follow me, I'm Lutaaya Shaban on Facebook, and maybe my email. I don't know how I can share it, but I also run a program called Hope for the Voiceless, and open to talk to anybody who would love to talk to me, to talk to them, schools and all that, because some of the kids, maybe they don't know that actually they like kids in Western world don't know that there are a lot of kids who are actually suffering the same way they suffer, or even more. So they need maybe to be mentored and all that stuff. So whoever would love to reach to me, and I keep on spreading the word out there, I'm open to that.
Yeah. Thank you, Shaban.
I put your email in the chat, and I also put a link to a webinar that for us in the US is tomorrow morning, for folks in Africa is tomorrow late afternoon. That's a group in Kenya, so neighboring Uganda, that I've been meaning to send you a note about that, Shaban, but I have been scatterbrained. So you can check that out, and I would love if we could figure out a way to support your work. I'm not sure what that looks like, but I'd love for it to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I just put
Gina, let's think about, guys, you're trying to find a way to travel to Africa and maybe have first-hand information.
there you go. I just put a link to the website, Hope for the Voiceless, in the chat as well, so people can look at that and connect on social media. I will try to do that for our clean project as well. But thank you very much, Shaban, for being here. And I know folks have to go to their next meetings, but it's just very, very good to hear your perspective, like I said, Shaban, and just thank you for all of the work that you do.
You're welcome, my friend.
Thanks for joining us today.
So much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And Shaban, with your permission, I'm love to connect you with a group here at the University of Arizona that's doing work on agrivoltaics, and they have some work going on. Whoops, he dropped. Oh, there. Yeah. So anyway, I'll send an email to connect you with Dr. Greg Barron Gafford, who's doing these agrivoltaic projects, particularly with students and school gardens and agricultural work. So anyway, maybe something will come of it, but if not, it's still an interesting project to consider.
Okay, maybe you can send me an email,
I will.
so
Yeah.
that you don't forget. Yeah,
I'm
we
doing
can
it
start
right now,
from
so
there.
I don't forget. Yes.
Okay.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.